Are you keto curious but afraid you'd have to trade in your Buddha bowls for cheeseburgers? Well, Dr. Will Cole, a leading functional medicine expert, says no way. Stay tuned to find out why and how today on The Healthy View. Welcome back, everyone. Here we are in The Healthy View. I'm Lisa Lutan, and I'm here with my fabulous and feisty co-host, Andrea Beeman and Michelle Fenninghaus.
Yeah, baby.
Woohoo! We are expert health coaches who have collectively helped tens of thousands of women around the world to get happier and healthier while staying sane and having fun. In case you're wondering, yes, we are the same team that brought you Healthy View Radio, but now we're back with a new year and a new format. You can expect some longer shows when we invite a guest to join us, like today, and some short quickie shows to give you an answer to a specific problem or pressing question. You'll find us on iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, and just about everywhere else. But to stay tuned and in the know, go to healthyviewshow.com and sign up to keep informed.
So today on Healthy View Radio, we're not Healthy View Radio anymore.
I knew we were going to mess that up.
Today on the Healthy View, we have Dr. Will Cole. He's a leading functional medicine expert. He consults with people around the world and locally in Pittsburgh. Dr. Cole specializes in clinically investigating underlying factors of chronic disease and customizing health programs for thyroid issues, autoimmune conditions, hormonal dysfunctions, digestive disorders, and brain problems. Dr. Cole was named one of the top 50 functional medicine and integrative doctors in the nation and is a health expert for Mind, Body, Green and Goop. Dr. Cole is the author of the Ketotarian book, the new one that just came out, in which he melds the powerful benefits of a ketogenic diet with a plant-based one. So welcome to the Healthy View, Dr. Cole. We're excited to have you on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah, we're excited because we love functional medicine because most of the medicine out there isn't really functioning very well. So it's good to have you on. Before we dive in, we like to ask our guests a few questions just to help our audience connect with you a little better. So what did you have for breakfast today?
I fasted in the morning, so nothing but good energy and Earl Grey tea. I fast with Earl Grey tea because it enhances autophagy, which is cellular repair. Not to get so geeky so quickly, but
oh no, go there.
We like geeky and we like fasting. Actually, we're big fans. We just did a thing on fasting as well. So the second thing. Oh wait, by the way, Earl Grey instead of green. Is there a reason?
Yeah, the bergamot in Earl Grey tea, it's a citrus, oil from Calabria in Italy. It's been shown in studies to enhance autophagy as well as fasting and can enhance autophagy. So that's the reason why. But the antioxidants in any green tea, white tea, black tea are good as well. But it's the added bergamot that makes me go for Earl Grey tea during intermittent fasting.
You know, it's funny. I love Earl Grey when it's raining out. I don't know why.
It matches the sky. It's a whole mood.
That's, I like Earl Grey when it's raining out too. We have that in common. It's something relaxing about it.
Yes. Okay. So the second question is, what is the number one thing that you do every day that has the greatest impact on your life?
I guess present moment awareness is like the simplest yet the most profound tool, especially for somebody that's always thinking about the next thing and more prone to that. Anchoring myself in the present moment is the most powerful tool that I have because I can be more effective by having a healthy relationship with whatever I'm doing.
I love that. And then final question before we get down and dirty with Ketotarianism. What is your guilty pleasure?
Probably Jamba Juice.
Ooh.
Peanut butter smooth. Yeah. Oh, it doesn't have to be at the mall. It could be any standalone Jamba Juice too. I don't discriminate, but it's the peanut butter mood. Now I do substitute almond milk for the soy milk, but it is my guilty pleasure. It's a lot of sugar in that smoothie. So
That's
Oh, that
it.
is so funny. I think that's the first time in a year we've heard that one as a guilty pleasure. Usually across the board, people are like chocolate, chocolate, chocolate,
No,
chocolate.
it's
This
Jamba Juice for
episode is
me.
sponsored
If
by
I see
Jamba
it,
Juice.
if I see a Jamba Juice in an airport, it's very difficult for me to pass it up. So
Oh, it's funny.
That is funny.
Okay, so in your practice, because I was on your website earlier and I like it. I like everything that you're doing and all your online programs. And in your practice, you focus on investigating the underlying factors to get to the root cause of someone's suffering. So, how do you start your initial investigation with patients?
a consultation. It's quite a comprehensive consultation where we give a functional medicine perspective and see their case through a functional medicine lens of seeing what the next best step would be for them. So that's asking a lot of questions. I had one older gentleman tell me once, are you in the KGB? Because we ask all these questions that, like, to him seemed seemingly unrelated to health, but it's actually quite helpful from a workup standpoint to see what the next best step is. So it's a thorough health history, which is, underrated, but it really can definitely point us in functional medicine what labs are the most relevant, so we can just be as thorough and efficient as possible.
Oh, that's great. And I was also looking at, your, you had initially suffered or you were suffering from adrenal fatigue. Is that correct?
Yeah. So this is something that me and my health issues over the years coincided with my immersion in functional medicine, and I started to implement functional medicine principles first in myself and in my family's life. So I have a family health history of autoimmune conditions on both sides. The way I was eating, which I talk about in Ketotarian, wasn't optimal for me. It was better than the standard American diet, but just because something's better doesn't make it optimal. So I had fatigue issues, I had and other inflammatory issues. So I realized for myself that I had to do something different to see different results. And that was, I started to implement the principles that we talk about in the book and what I try to advocate for my patients as well.
Oh, that's great. So let's talk about your book. Can you explain what Ketotarian from your perspective is and how your book differs from all the other keto stuff that's out there in the world?
Yeah. So the ketogenic diet is quite, buzzworthy at this moment. It's having its pop culture moment, but it's something that we've implemented in functional medicine for a long time. And what humans would have had various times of ketosis throughout human history. This is really nothing new. But Ketotarian is my play on words. It's the amalgamation of being the best of being keto and the best of being plant-based, hence the fusion of those two words. So it's a plant-based ketogenic diet. It's my made up word. I had someone tell me, you created a celebrity couple name with your book title, like Brangelina, only, hopefully Ketotarian lasts longer, which I think it will, than that. But that's what it is. So it's vegan keto, vegetarian keto, and pescatarian keto options, all plant-centric. And it's just a cleaner way to go keto and get the benefits of ketosis, which are so many exciting clinical applications. It's anti-inflammatory, it's fat burning, it's brain boosting. Like, let's do that. Let's get the benefits of being fat adapted, but let's just not fall prey to these potential pitfalls of the way that people are doing keto on social media. And if you look at hashtag keto, you'll see typically lots of meat and dairy. And some people don't prefer having lots of meat and dairy. Some people don't feel good eating lots of meat and dairy. So I wanted to do keto clean for the everyday man and woman.
I love that. Also, you said that there were certain times throughout human history where we naturally went into ketogenic state, right? So what were those times? Seasonally, right? Or
yeah, it depends on where our ancestors were from, really. But food wasn't always readily available. So they would go through times of fasting, and healthy fat was something that was revered. I mean, throughout human history, when from an ancestral standpoint, from a hunter-gatherer standpoint, healthy fat was their primary source of fuel. And they had strong metabolic flexibility where they could burn fat for fuel and burn sugar for fuel when they had it. But now most people in the United States and around Western civilization, they're stuck in just sugar burning mode. They don't have the flexibility to burn fat. So we've lost that flexibility metabolically speaking. So what I teach in Ketotarian is to regain metabolic flexibility, which is what humans would have had for thousands of years. And our genetics haven't changed in research estimate about 10,000 years. So just getting in alignment with our biochemistry, allowing to burn fat for fuel, but when you want to moderate your carbs and have that Jamba Juice smoothie, then you can, but then you can go back in ketosis when you want to. People just have lost that ability to do that, and they're burning kindling all day long, and you get hangry and irritable if you don't get your next snack because they're in this sugar burning mode.
Can you walk us through what it looks like to eat a typical day on a ketotarian diet, and including like times, so the intermittent fasting piece is taken into account?
Sure. So intermittent fasting or time restricted feeding is something that someone can do. They don't have to do it. I think that the way that someone should do intermittent fasting is a way that they feel great and they enjoy, and that's sustainable for them. And some people coming right out of the gates, they maybe are still in sugar burning mode, and they get excited about this concept of fasting and ketosis, and they do too much too soon. And then they end up binging on like junk food when they're breaking their fast. That's not done in a way that I think is just good for sustainable wellness. But the great thing is the more fat adapted somebody is, the more that they have started leaning into this plant-based ketogenic way of eating, the more they'll randomly fast because they aren't hangry. They're not as hungry. So they'll do what I did this morning and not have breakfast, not because I am like gritting my teeth and not having breakfast, but because I can do it. And I'll eat when I'm hungry. And that's what people gain, that metabolic flexibility. They have the grace and the lightness to do that, and they're not bound by the next snack and meal. But a typical day for a ketotarian, you could fast in the morning, or you could have one of the recipes in the book. Like I like the chia seed pudding, very simple, with some bee pollen on the top, some blueberries, which is a low fructose fruit that's ketotarian friendly. For lunch, we have a Buddha bowl. You mentioned that at the top of the show. We have one that is a keto Buddha bowl, completely vegan keto. And then we have vegetarian options and pescatarian options too. But I like this one vegan keto option that's a pesto zoodle bowl with zucchini noodles with this amazing pesto sauce on top. And you can have a vegetarian keto on the side, which is the cover of the book. It's an egg avocado. I mean, putting an egg and an avocado together makes most people in the United States happy. And then for dinner, you can, again, stay vegan keto, but we have some good pescatarian options with this really great albacore tuna recipe with soup salad with grapefruit salsa. And we have these avocado fries that are so delicious with this chipotle aioli dressing. And yeah, so they're crusted with almond flour. So that's like a typical day. Yeah, that's the zoodle bowl.
Yum.
There's over 81 recipes. You can plug in whatever one you want in, but those are some examples.
Oh, that's great. So with this book, what type of person would this book be best suited for, or this way of eating be best suited for?
Well, it's anybody that doesn't feel like they're at their best, that wants to feel better. So specifically, the way I summarized it on the cover was to crush cravings, to calm inflammation, to boost energy, and to burn fat. So I think those are like the biggest groups of people that would benefit from being fat adapted and being more eating this clean keto approach. But there are other people that feel all right, but they just want to experiment. There's sort of the biohackers out there, which are a lot of people in the ketogenic community. And I think that just trying to be more plant-centric and maybe not being entirely plant-based, but bringing some of these things in, I've seen on obviously my patients, but now that the book's out on social media, people just doing some minor changes with some of the principles in the book, making major positive impact in their life. So anybody that wants to improve their health, I think they should experiment with the concepts we have in Ketotarian.
Is there a place for sweet potatoes, bananas, nuts? Like, how do these things fit in?
Yeah, so nuts for sure. Those are great vegan keto plant-based fats with some clean protein in there. So that's without a doubt in the Ketotarian triangle that we have in the book. Sweet potatoes, I would use those for a cyclical ketotarian approach, which after 8 weeks of being plant-based keto, I teach some ways for people to personalize this for themselves. They don't always have to be in ketosis because they built that metabolic flexibility. So maybe 4 to 5 days out of the week, they're in ketosis, and then they eat more fruit or they eat more sweet potatoes and things like that. And then they're not going to be junk food, but they're moderating their carbs, and that's a good thing. And then they go back into ketosis. A lot of people like that, especially women, really like the cyclical approach. They maybe moderate their carbs around their cycle, and it's quite a natural ebb and flow, but they've built that metabolic flexibility to burn fat and to burn sugar when they want to. So that's where I would put the sweet potatoes. And what was the other food that you mentioned?
Bananas.
Oh, same thing. So I would put the bananas in the cyclical approach. And then to the point that you guys mentioned earlier was seasonally. I think that's another way for people to do it as well, is during the winter months, maybe more in ketosis, and then in the summer, having more fresh seasonal fruits. And that's something from an ancestral health perspective that many of our ancestors would have done as well.
Do you find that a lot of people start relying more heavily on fish and kind of going the pescatarian route because it's easier, it gives you more options? And if so, what about possible toxicity?
So it depends. I think that it definitely gives you more variety, right? If you're a pescatarian keto eater, you have all the vegetarian options and all the vegan options as well, versus just the vegan options. They just have the vegan options. And most of the recipes are vegan keto. I don't want to undermine that, but without a doubt, you have more variety the more foods you can or want to eat. As far as the fish that we recommend in the book, they're the environmental working groups and other researchers. We picked the lowest mercury, the cleanest fish, where the overwhelming benefits of getting this clean, fresh seafood, healthy omega fats way outweighs any negative. Where you look at our food supply, I mean, you really could find problems with a lot of different food groups. We're picking the best kinds out there. So there's no concern from a heavy metal standpoint when you're picking from this list.
So tell me about gut health. So I know that you're a big proponent of like bone stocks and stuff like that. Does that fit into your book in any way?
Yeah. So when I wrote Ketotarian, I wanted to bring something new to the table. I thought the last thing that we needed was like another conventional keto book. So I definitely wanted to come with a different approach, also for people to get new content and actually be helpful instead of just adding to the noise. But also, I made exceptions because I'm a functional medicine practitioner first, and I know how healing bone broth can be. So I mentioned this in the book, I said the one exception to this vegan, vegetarian, pescatarian rule is chicken bone broth. Now you can do fish stock, and I mentioned this in the book, and that would be pescatarian, but most people they're not going to make fish stock. It's not part of something they're going to get their head around.
The whole house.
Yeah. But in some societies that's normal, and they do that quite fine. But no, I made the exception of chicken stock because of how it can really help gut lining and get higher collagen levels in the body. It's definitely I'm an advocate for it.
So I have a question. So on your bottom of your pyramid, the biggest amount of food we're supposed to eat is the fat, which is true for most keto diets, which you're saying olive oil, avocados, that type of thing. What I'm trying to figure out is how much fat does a typical woman need to eat at each meal to have that level of satiety where she doesn't want to graze all day?
Mm-hmm. It's definitely going to depend on the individual and how much activity she's doing. And so the rule is, like the ketotarianism that I mentioned in the book, is to eat until satiety. That does depend on the person. So we give general benchmarks of what you should be having. When you have some healthy fats, add some green and leafy vegetables. And conversely, when you have green leafy vegetables, add some healthy fats. So, and if you're not hungry from your meal, add more fat. That's the general rule there. So if you had a heavy workout one day, that's going to look different than if you are resting that day. That amount will vary. And every person's different too. and what their own body's demand is from an energetic standpoint. But yeah, those fats are quite satiating. So normally a little goes a long way. You actually don't need that much, especially the oils. So if you're cooking with different avocado oil or olive oil or grass-fed like ghee or coconut oil, these things are quite satiating. And then on top of that, things like olives and avocados and nuts and seeds.
Yeah, it's funny. My husband, not a woman, but when we do like a little liver gallbladder cleanse, and we do like grated beets and apples, and we put a lot of olive oil and the lemon juice in there and have that for breakfast. When he first did it, he was like, there's no way that this is gonna keep me satisfied. I'm gonna need a hamburger after this. And he could last the entire morning just with the olive oil fat that was in the vegetables, and he was shocked.
Yeah, it is amazing. A little goes a long way. And if you are finding yourself like ravenous at lunchtime or at dinner time in between, it normally means you haven't eaten enough. And then you start learning, oh, I can add more. I didn't eat enough at that last meal.
I have a question about nuts, because so many people have, especially children who may be allergic to nuts. I know a lot of families who just have a no nut household. Is it possible to do the Ketotarian diet without nuts and seeds?
Yeah, it is. And I think that at that point, my mind would start going to, I would advocate the pescatarian keto options, but we have many recipes in the book that are labeled nut-free, or I labeled them autoimmune friendly, meaning that they're free of nightshades and eggs and nuts and seeds. So they have some other options. Without a doubt, you do not have to eat nuts to be keto adapted or ketotarian.
So what's your favorite recipe from the book?
I think the pesto zoodle bowl. I don't know why I'm loving pesto so much lately, but I just had it last night. It's probably the pesto zoodle bowl and the avocado fries.
Yeah. Yum, yum, yum.
That's funny. I could eat pesto every day.
Same.
Yes.
What's in the pesto if there's no cheese in it? What do you put in there instead?
Vegan nut cheese. Vegan nut cheese. Yeah, that's what it is.
So one thing that I'm curious about, for women that are emotional eaters and that they're not eating out of hunger, how has that been addressed or not addressed? Because it's not just having fat that's going to solve what they're looking for. Any thoughts on that?
Yes, it's paramount to deal with it. And that's why people that are reading Ketotarian are probably like, why is he talking about this, like this mind body stuff and this like relationship with your body and your food stuff? Because it's such a foundational aspect of food, and you can get your macros on point. You can eat the best, ketotarian meal. But if you are shaming your body and stressing about food or using food to deal with some sort of emotional problem, you're a saboteur for yourself unintentionally. And this isn't about shaming anybody. This is about loving your body enough to nourish it with good foods. And as I mentioned in the book, you can't heal a body you hate. And I think that many people go into this, and we see this in the wellness world, right? I mean, people that are binging and orthorexia and like stressing about healthy food, this is antithetical to sustainable wellness and certainly antithetical to Ketotarian. So you have to get your head and your heart right. You have to heal your relationship with food, heal your relationship with your body. And going back to what I said at the top of the conversation is present moment awareness, to start to realign why you are doing the things you're doing. Are you eating reactively? Or are you eating because you're hungry? And I think the more somebody is conscious of why they're doing what they're doing, they'll start making rational choices and choices that are in alignment with them feeling great. And people want to feel great. And when people start focusing on these foods, they start dealing with their head and their heart, then these things all start to sort themselves out.
So go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know it's not the whole story, but certainly I find that when I eat avocado, I eat a lot of fat in my meal. Yeah, I could keep eating in an emotional way, but it's a lot less likely to happen, right? If my blood sugar is more stable, if I'm not having those kindling up and downs throughout the day. So it feels like the diet would start to help with that behavior automatically.
Yeah, it's two sides of a coin. You're definitely right. You're balancing your hormones, But then when you lower your stress levels, that's also conducive to choices too. So yeah, they all work together.
I agree, but I often see, some of my clients that they give up, breads and pastas and they start eating more nuts, and they're eating a lot of nuts and a lot of nuts, and they're not getting full. And they're like, why did I gain weight doing this? And so there's still this little piece that I'm finding no solution for, because what limit, like, it always says there's no quantities of portion size or anything like that. You can have as many nuts, have as many avocados, and it makes sense to me intellectually and rationally. But I have seen this with women, especially, in their 50s and 60s. And I don't know how you get around that.
Yeah, and there are some nuts like cashews, for example, that are a little bit higher in carbs than other ones. So it depends, I guess, what nuts they're going to. And I think that's the learning experience that someone goes through this time of being fat adapted and learning what foods within the umbrella of ketotarian foods or however they're eating. Like, okay, maybe I should have less of this and more of this. And sometimes that's when a health coach or a functional medicine doctor can come into play and say, yes, even though this is good for your body, for you, you're having too much of this, because too much nuts can cause some digestive problems for some people. And maybe they should be soaking their nuts and things like that and dehydrating them. So there's ways to personalize this that works best for the individual. It's as you all know, it's hard to encapsulate every bio-individuality in a book. You can't do that. But that's when people have practitioners and doctors and coaches like us to work these things out on an individual basis.
Yeah. So speaking of unique and individual and all that stuff, you have a variety of online programs on your website. What is the best place for people to start? Would it be with your book or with one of your online programs? And how would people get in touch with you?
Thank you so much. Everything's at drwillcole.com. We have video classes. If people want to get them to watch at their own pace, and there's Facebook groups where you can interact with me and other users. We have one on plant-based keto. We have one on autoimmunity, on brain, gut, and hormones as well. It depends on what level they're at. If they want to get a functional medicine perspective on their case, so we offer a free health evaluation. I consult people around the world via my virtual practice, via webcam consults. And then some people don't want any of that and they just maybe pick up the book. So it depends on where people are at on their journey. And hopefully some of the things we're putting out there in this space of functional medicine, they can start to improve their life however they see fit.
Well, it sounds like you're putting good things out there, Doc.
Thank you.
Yeah, we appreciate you for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom and your knowledge and your new book with everybody. And keep up the great work in the world.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you.
Bye, Dr. Cole.
Bye.
All right, ladies. Well, you know what? We got some comments over on Facebook while we were chatting. So I wanted to just go to those really quickly. Sharon said that she purchased the book last year and has really loved it. And she wanted to thank Dr. Cole. We got a lot of people tagging other people saying like, hey, you got to watch this. Hey, you got to watch this. Right. So I think because keto is so hot right now, what do you guys think about this idea of combining it with plant-based?
Well, I actually think it's awesome, because one of the things that frustrated me at first when I was learning about keto, it's like he said, everything was, meat and heavy dairy and all those things that looked like Atkins, all over again. And I was like, what about the salads? What about the good stuff? And even just the look of his book, it's very light and airy, and it just appealed to me in a very different kind of way. The recipes look great, by the way, too.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
I like, I'm not surprised that we have a lot of buzz about keto on Facebook and on the web, the interwebs, because it's such a hot topic. But I personally, in my own experience and with my clients, and also from ancestral teachings, keto really only calls to me in the wintertime. Like literally in the wintertime, I want more fat. My body craves it. I'll give you a great example. Monday night in New York, it was 10 degrees.
Oh, it was so cold.
It was 10 degrees. So he cooked a duck breast, with the fat in the pan and seared it. And when we finished the dinner, I felt like I needed more fat. So I went with a spoon into the pan and I took the duck fat And I put it, and Pablo said, "Stop doing that." And I said, "No, no,
Wow.
I'm craving this." And I'm very in tune. Like the doctor says, he's a meditation, right? He gets in touch with his body. He knows what he needs. That's the number one thing that he does every day. So for me, I ate the dinner. It was delicious. It was wonderful. There was a lot of vegetables. There was the duck breast. There was fat on it. It wasn't enough fat for me. On the day that it was 10 degrees in New York City, I actually wanted more fat. So I took it. And I told Pablo,
Right on the spoon, right in the mouth.
I said, "Stop being the fat police."
And duck fat too. That's something
Duck
special.
So delicious, ridiculously good. So I'm a fan of keto, but not necessarily all year round.
That's so
Mm.
interesting. Like I literally love sweet potatoes and squash and all that. And I'm so, it's such a emotional thing for me to say I couldn't eat them. So that's where I struggle. I don't think I've ever really done pure keto, but I eat so healthy anyway that I go, I don't want to give up my sweet potatoes. So it's interesting. And the whole thought of being in ketosis and pig on the stick, to me, that doesn't feel like a natural state. So, which is another reason that I shy away, even though I eat mostly the foods that are recommended on keto.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lisa. I think that it makes a lot of sense when you hear it. The way the doctor explains it, it's like, yeah, of course, it's gonna help balance my hormones. I'm gonna feel so satisfied and all the rest. But in practice, I worry about counting carbs. Peeing on sticks. It's just another version of counting calories and getting on the scale. And I feel like that behavior can be, it could be healthy, but it could be unhealthy. What were you going to say, Andrea?
Well, I was going to say, because she was talking about sweet potatoes, and you guys know Chris Masterjohn, right?
Mm-hmm.
He just posted up something about, I think it was about either paleo. I think it was about keto. And he said that it in the long term, it actually will contribute to more depression because you don't have the actual carbohydrates in the sweet potato or whatever else to bring the neurotransmitters to the brain or something like that.
I was listening to that. He got very nerdy. Anyone who's interested should check it out.
Yeah, I find that if I don't, because I'm not eating the bread and the pasta, if I don't have those carbs, I do get a little sad and tired. And so that's one of the things you have to look at for yourself, how you feel. Now, there is the thought that maybe I didn't go long enough till I became fat adapted. That's entirely possible. So if you're doing keto and you're loving it, go for it. But for some of us, it's challenging just to even get there.
Oh, I got a way to get there.
How? Tell me. How do I get there?
Do like when before you exercise in the morning, like don't eat.
So I remember I can't because I can't have the coffee without food or I get a stomachache. So there's limitations, but there's many times I'll stop eating in the afternoon. Like I'll eat really early, mid, and then afternoon, and then I won't eat. So I'm doing the intermittent fasting piece sometimes, which feels great. It's more the like literally taking away that last piece of the carbs, so.
I'm just still hung up on the part where you're like, but I have to have my coffee. So
hey, wait a minute. I was caffeine free for 27 years. I am allowed to have my coffee. I intentionally brought back coffee and because of the benefits of coffee, and I have 1 cup a day and I savor, love it.
All right. Well,
so there.
Not be fasting too much.
Yeah. Could you have the coffee at like 10 o'clock instead of at 7 o'clock or 6 o'clock? Because if you fasted in the morning before your exercise, or even like fast and then do a 20-minute walk, that actually starts the process of.
But the fasting isn't my problem because I'll stop eating at 3 and then not eat till 6 a.m. So I'm doing the fasting. It's not that, it's the carb piece. Yeah, so that's not my issue. It's more the other piece. If you really got to know.
You really got to know. We got a question over here from Maria. Maria said, what's that different? What's the difference between, I guess, Ketotarian and the Mediterranean diet? So the thing that pops to my mind is, a big old plop of whole grains on your plate would be the difference there, Maria, right? And not to mention some meat, right? Because you're having lean meats with the Mediterranean diet and with Ketotarian, aside from the the bone broth that Dr. Cole's allowing for, otherwise there'd be no chicken or lean meats in there. Any other differences that you guys can think of?
Yeah, probably the Mediterranean diet is probably lower in fat than a Ketotarian
Yes.
diet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah, with a keto diet, you're eating mostly fat. And that's what people, aren't realizing, the level of fat. And if you try to do keto and you don't do it correctly, you can end up gaining weight because you're increasing the fat, but you're not decreasing the carb. And you can gain weight instead of lose weight. So you want to be careful to like really read up on this if you're going to try it.
Yeah. So my keto Monday duck thing, we had sweet potatoes. Actually, we had yams. They were
There you
so
go.
delicious.
Yeah, they're really good.
Oh my God. But we also had a big cabbage salad on the side. It was actually really a balanced meal, I gotta say. Except they needed more fat.
Needed more fat. You know what? The idea of balancing and having something from every food group is what appeals to me the most.
Me
I
too.
know these diets all sound great. I know people are having success with them, but ultimately, like one time someone asked me if I would write a cookbook, and I was like, yeah, I would love to write a cookbook. Get published by a big author? Yeah, that sounds amazing. What's the details? Well, Michelle, it has to be a vegan paleo cookbook. Oh, like, come on, man. Like, can't we just eat in moderation? I know it's hard. It's hard. But I said no to the cookbook, but that's kind of that's what this reminded me of, the vegan paleo, the vegetarian keto. I guess everyone loves to cut out food groups.
It's trendy.
But I have to say, I do like to cut out food groups. It works for me. It gives me boundaries. I don't miss them when they're gone. So if it works and it's not, I cut out bad food groups typically, but I don't miss them and I feel good. So
Oh, it's
I'm
funny.
okay
Yeah.
with it.
I don't cut out anything, so I don't miss anything.
Yeah.
Ever.
In fact, I feel like the further I go along this journey, from where I used to eat lean cuisines for lunch and now I, ferment my own grains and all the rest, the more I reintroduce, the more I'm like, it's cool. I'm going to have a beer. It's fine. Or like, I'm going to have some chocolate. And it's been really interesting because at first I got very strict, and I see this with a lot of people who are publishing books. I think we've
Yes.
talked about this a bit before. They're very strict on a certain diet for a while, and then they end up expanding. I think that's what the universe is always doing anyway. We're always
I think
expanding.
that's so important because if you feel deprived, it's not going to last. And I too, if there's ever something I want, I will have it. I just won't have it most of the time. Like if I really want ice cream, I'm going to have ice cream, but I'm not going to have ice cream all the time. And I think it's that mindset. It's not that I can't have it, I just don't want it most of the time. Like dairy, I don't eat dairy on a daily basis, but if I go to this restaurant and they have this sprinkle of goat cheese and it's beautiful, I'm going to love it and enjoy it. So I think that's the key, is having these boundaries, but also understanding how they're impacting your mind, and are they serving you or are they hurting you?
Now, the big question.
Yes.
Who is going to go drink some Earl Grey tea tomorrow? I never heard that before.
I haven't either. I don't even have Earl Grey tea.
Anyone watching, if you don't know what we're talking about, you got to go back to the beginning of the episode and find out, and that's going to be your homework. If not, to try Ketotarian, to at least try the Earl Grey tea. There we go. And we want to thank you all for joining us. This is our first live episode of the year, and we've loved having you here with us. Please join us. Every week we'll be releasing an episode, sometimes live, sometimes not, and you can find out which is which and when if you head on over to healthyviewshow.com and subscribe for updates. But that's all we got for now, you guys. Take care.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.